What's going on, guys? My name is Mike. I'm a software developer in St. Louis, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got into the industry, starting out as a pizza boy to a software developer, a little bit about my journey and what it took to get there. So I got started in software development about 3.5, 4 years ago now. I started the traditional route like everybody, CS student in university, and I thought it wasn't for me. I was in huge class sizes, I was learning Java, I didn't know what was going on, and I dropped out. I actually dropped out twice in about a year and a half, and I didn't think it was for me. I almost gave up, and I started to work over at Amazon. I was working real hard, working late night, 10-hour shifts. One night I'm sitting there, I'm like, God, I need to go back to school, and I'm going to get this degree, and I am going to make it in the software development game. Went back one last time to university. Again, same thing that happened, didn't make it, dropped out again. But now, fast forward a couple months, I start at community college, go for a degree in web technologies, focus on design. And from there, I realized, I'm like, okay, this is for me. I started with basic HTML, CSS, really started to dig in, really started to understand what was going on. It was a little bit more basic than starting with something like Java. And then from there, I learned Visual Basic into JavaScript, was really getting my fundamentals, doing it outside of class. That was a really big one for me, is being able to do it outside of the classroom, being able to, I'd go into class, get a little structure, and then explore on my own. And that's something really big in the industry that people don't understand. You can't just show up to class and expect results. You have to do it outside of class. It has to almost become your life a little bit, because eventually that's what you're going to be doing 40 hours a week like I do now. And that's something that you have to be prepared for. And now another really big resource that I got that helped me was finding a mentor. One of my professors, I thought he was really smart, and he ended up being a really good guy, and we would hop in the Slack channel, and he would just send me all this content. He's like, hey Mike, do this, hey Mike, do this, and I'd be like, okay, yes sir, any questions? I would ask him, we'd hammer it out, and next thing I know, I'm killing. I'm coming to class, I'm bored, because I'm like, dude, I did this weeks ago. So from there, I would stick around after class. I'd start tutoring other students at the community college, and that really even helped even more, because really that was benefiting me more than them, because I was like, man, if you can teach something to someone, that means you have a really good understanding of what's going on. So fast forward a couple months go by, my mentor's like, hey, would you like a part-time paid internship with a buddy of mine? I'm like, of course I would. So I get started. I work a full remote position, making about $18 an hour. I was doing Angular, JavaScript, refactoring code, simple stuff like that. That went on for a couple months, and then school was kind of wrapping up, and so I was getting a lot better. I was learning more modern technologies, because school sometimes can be a little dated in the technologies that they teach you. So you really have to try to be as modern as possible. I even skipped the part where I was delivering pizzas. Basically, the whole time before I started this internship, I was delivering pizzas. I was listening to Syntax. That's an awesome podcast for web developers. I highly recommend it. I'll probably drop a link. And then I was watching Travesty Media. I'll also drop a link for that as well. And these resources really helped me get, not like jargon is a big one, because people would throw around all these terms that I didn't know, just simple stuff like, like, oh, we spun up this application, and stuff like OAuth. I'm like, what's OAuth? What's user authentication? What's data sanitization? What's all these big concepts that get thrown around, and if you're not in the loop, you don't really understand what's going on, and it's easy to fall behind. So let's go back to the internship. So once that was coming to a close, I'm like, man, I really need to get a full-time position. So from there, I started to build up my resume. I was really just keep working on side projects. Well, I even was motivated enough to try to sell a piece of software tool, I joined our local Chamber of Commerce group. I found a business that was they build WordPress sites. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Like WordPress, not really development unless you're really building out the themes and, using PHP, writing it all out, like creating child themes and stuff like that isn't really development, but, it's still big value. But they were doing all their customer management on paper. I'm like, guys, you're telling me that you are a company that builds websites, but you are managing all your customers on paper? No. So I worked with them for a couple months alongside while I was doing my internship. I built them out a whole customer management system. I built it with Bootstrap for the UI components. I used PHP on the back end to handle instantiating all these customer objects, right? So you would have a customer and then it would send all the data alongside with them. I built them a MySQL database to store it all, use PHP to grab all the values. I built them a user authentication with Firebase, so then they could have a login and people can just be looking through all their data, because it had a lot of customer information in there, and it's important to lock that data down. We used a two-way data binding, right? Or not two-way data binding, we use bound parameters, so and string escapes, so people can SQL inject the site through any inputs. So it was really locked down, it was clean. They paid me a couple grand. It was awesome for a first job, and that's actually what segued me into my current position as a PHP developer. I mainly work now in Laravel and Vue, and doing that kind of stuff is awesome. I work with an awesome team. I've learned so much in just my few months there, learning true MVC and routing everything together, building out these components, building commands on the back end to be fired off on jobs, and then a job fired into a queue, and gathering all these reports that come in and having them ran on background processes and stuff like that. It's a lot of really big stuff that's very valuable to companies. This is stuff when you're working on enterprise level stuff, you have to kind of learn how to build these. Like in school, you learn how to build these little applications, right? But building them from scratch to finish, right? And it's just a small piece. But what really becomes a bigger issue is you have an organism of a software, right? And you're going to build your piece, and you have to be able to insert that into an already living, breathing ecosystem without destroying everything. That's where things get tricky. That's when you pull it down, you do it locally, you test, right? You throw it up, and you have a staging somewhere in between. It's live, but it's not production. Test more, keep logging, and then from there, then it gets pushed into production. Probably will get more errors. Someone from other departments will be like, hey, you just broke my software, I can't do my work, right? And it just goes from there. I just wanted to make a quick video about how I got into software development, a little bit of my journey. Hopefully this helps some people out. I'm probably gonna throw a link for my Slack channel, and I'm thinking about making more videos about getting into the industry, what it's about, and then bringing on some of my developer buddies to talk a little bit more on this, and then maybe do a day in the life of a developer, but I'm gonna make it as realistic as possible. And then we'll just see where it goes from there, see if this gets any traction. I'm just really passionate about helping other people get into the industry, since I struggled getting in. I had recruiters hang up on me. I had recruiters be like, oh, you don't have any experience, and I just wanted more than anything to work in the field because I loved programming, but I wasn't, I didn't have enough experience. I didn't know how to get into it, and what I realized is you really just have to go out there, and even if you have to do it for free, do something for someone, and that is huge. And finding a mentor is also huge. Going to meetups, I use the Meetup app, and there's always someone talking about something. Developers, just go network with other developers. I know it's hard in this industry. A lot of people are extremely introverted. I consider myself an extrovert. I love talking to people, and it's made me extremely valuable in this field because it's so hard for some people to just convey their topics to each other. But when you're working on a team, you have to be able to communicate. They would rather take someone who is a subpar, pretty green developer that can communicate effectively versus someone who's a genius but can't talk. What good is working for a company if you're basically by yourself? So that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thanks, guys.